Hey, hi Rahul. How are you doing today?
Hi, all good, all good. How are you?
Doing great, great Rahul. First of all, thanks a lot for being accepting to press come to the podcast. And it has always been really great talking with you. I think we had probably few discussions where we went to really in depth in understanding the space, and we had our own ideas about it, and also we had great discussions. I always enjoyed the discussions with you. I thought, why not have you come share some of those of your insights to our audiences and so on as well. So yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you
And
so much for inviting me. Honestly, Surinder, I think I was in fact wanted to have it in person. It would be a great experience then, but unfortunately, there are some couldn't travel. Uh, Otherwise, it would have been a great experience together.
absolutely, absolutely, Rahul. So yeah, I think for the audience, I think most of you guys would have known Rahul if you are in the digital marketing space. Career is really extensive all the way working with the brands like UTV, Emami, and also with agencies like Havas. I think for quite a big amount of time with at different positions. So maybe Rahul, why don't we get started with uh, maybe like expanding that journey, understanding how you started, how you went through various roles, and now I think at a really larger global role at Havas, right? So yeah, let us know how it all panned out so far.
So, if you talk about the journey, it's it's not as glorious, but it's pretty straightforward. I started as a commerce graduate, of course, got into the digital ecosystem when I joined a company called Mobile to Win, and it was then managing short codes for Sony when they used to do
Okay,
this voting for Indian Idol then. So they were set up, they were managing the short code, they were set up. So it was predominantly mobile marketing driven ecosystem then, and it evolved greatly. I have actually been lucky enough to see that kind of transformation from the beginning. Mobile to when I was mobile exploring how mobile gaming then was evolving. There were a lot of content was getting created for to be consumed by the mobile users, and of course, the SMS marketing, the voice marketing was prominent then. And then eventually you start to see how that shift happened when the data started getting cheap and cheap, and then of course your evolution of the smartphone come into picture, data becoming more and more cheaper, and then your consumption of the uh, data is increased. You get you could access more and more content, get more and more knowledge from your device that you're holding at your hand. So I think similarly, from there to UTV gave me a great experience then to understand how the entertainment industry in general has been working and how that landscape was. Then from then, of course, my agency career started with the company called Mobis. Again, it was part of the MPG group, media planning group. Media planning will now then become Havas, part of Havas. And then since then, I most of my agency career actually went with Havas. I had um, uh, privilege to work with the great minds within Havas Media who've been always supportive through and through my journey. Then, of course, from there I started my journey with Blipper. Blipper was actually a company who was into emerging tech where we are experimenting with AR and VR. We were the first one to launch the augmented reality display placement then.
okay,
Um, and then of course they are working towards extensive visual discovery through the application. So if you point at something, it will tell you what exactly that is and give you more information by
yeah,
just looking at things through your lenses of your camera. So that was Blipper. Then, of course, to understand the creative side better, of course. Network did a great job in helping me that kind of understanding, because they had a brilliant creative team who had creative minds, strategic minds, who I got an opportunity to work with. And then again, going back to work with Havas, I was managing the West then. And then the COVID happened, of course, and then the Emami happened. Emami was the leading FMCG. It helped me understand the scale, get closer to brand, understand consumer, understand how the sales side of things works. So Emami helped with that. And then again, when I rejoined after leaving Emami, I rejoined Havas Media. Then I've been presented with the role where to lead the the Center of Excellence team, and then start creating a hub for global planning and strategy, being at Center of Excellence. So that's how the overall journey goes as far as that concerns. It gave me a pretty much. From a knowledge perspective, it helped me understand how adaptability works. How can you reinvent yourself from one role to other, and how to be future ready. That's how what uh, the journey so far has always taught me.
Got it. Got it, Rahul. No, that's great. I think working with various type of uh, brands as well as agencies and different roles inside the agency. I think that gives you a really wide spectrum of understanding about the industry. I think you have worked with both brands as well as agencies, and in agencies in a center of excellence team as well as in a client facing team, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which out of this did you really enjoy? Working in a brand versus an agency where you had either center of excellence or the client facing role?
I think both are. See, it's when I used to work in an agency, I've always wondered how it feels like working on a brand side. And we always see that
Mm.
grass is greener on the other side, but it's not. But
Yeah.
yeah, it both roles and both have their own advantages. The learning graphs, of course, at both in both places you will have different. So here with the agency, you will get to work on many other brands, a variety of um, categories that you can work. So I personally work with airline industry. I worked with Emirates before, uh, automotive brands,
Nice.
luxury brands, retail. So all these, given uh, the exposure that I had with the agency, helped me understand how the category works in general. When it comes to Emami, being at a client side, you can see the business more closer. Like for example,
Yes.
when you are a partner to a brand, like here at Avas, you always see uh, everything from the lens of what the brand manager is telling you, right? But when you go towards that side, you know and understand, okay, there are certain decisions that need to be made because the business demands it. So that is more critical. So you need to understand, you get to understand the business criticality more in detail there, and then your decisions and your actions will change and shape up according to what the requirements are from a business lens perspective. And that's the greater that helped me to a greater extent, because now with that understanding, when I come back to the partner side, it now helps me understand what the brand is trying to say, convey, understand their vision. So, and that we can translate with when it comes to making it a more like from a translate that understanding and presenting them to a media solution. So, so that's what I said. So both will have advantages, but of course, Emami gave me a lot of fresh perspective on things, for sure. Now, if you look at my current role at COE, is actually sits at an intersection of media performance, digital
Mm.
transformation, and then
Mm.
scaling that innovation for clients across categories. So
Okay.
what I've understood now, I just need to translate that and make sure that I replicate it across other
Mm.
categories as well, but at a global scale
Got
now,
it.
of course.
Yeah, yeah, true. No, that's great to hear, right? So, can you maybe simplify how, let's say, the AI transformation or AI adoption sort of has come in? For example, let's say earlier we used to have digital transformation kind of team. Is it the I think the larger both agencies as well as enterprises have started having this AI adoption team and AI center of excellence teams and so on and so forth. Is that an extension to digital transformation, or like has it changed the way of the work or the way of seeing things totally in the last few years, or how is it changed?
It is mainly a collaborative thing. I think there is no a specific person who is being given a responsibility of digital transformation, right? So, for
Right.
example, who is basically the brand owner, let's say from a client side, or who is the digital lead, the client side, they're basically the one who's leading it or trying to drive it with a purpose. And if you basically at a client agency or a partner side, what you need to understand is, okay, there's a requirement, there's a purpose, and for that purpose you need to bring in certain um, skill sets along with you. So the skill sets from a perspective of hiring a new team who can deliver to that that requirement.
Oh,
You need to hire, let's say, a tool, or let's say different business partner who can deliver to that requirement or to that, and can help that purpose comes to help that requirement come to reality. So whatever is required to deliver that, your job is to basically assemble um, that team together, that um, uh, reinforcement together to basically make that happen. And that's the critical role, because this requires you to be critically evaluating every single thing, right? If you want, let's say, resources to be deployed, how critical, how what kind of level of experience that resource might require, what kind of work or tool that they got exposure to. um, Again, this is stems from what the client wants you to do, or what their requirement, what their core purpose, why they want to do certain things. All that comes from their brief for you to evaluate every single aspect. As I mentioned in the past as well, whatever you need to do, if it is purpose driven, of course, it always help. You cannot just
yes.
say, okay, I need to bring in digital transformation, let's do something, and let's get all these glorious tools that we've been hearing so far, let's start implementing. No, if you don't have a direction, if you have a purpose, and you don't have a direction,
Right.
everything that you do is all waste of your time and energy.
Got it. No, no, interesting for sure, Rahul. I really like this term that you used, like hiring a new tool and so on, right? So, want to sort of, let's say, double down into that. So, uh, let's say, as you probably will also have the responsibility of, let's say, upskilling the teams and upskilling the overall charter and so on and so forth, right? So, how do you see these tools as, let's say, either complementary in nature to your workforce, as well as maybe in a way even competition to your workforce and so on, right? So do you see that angle coming in, and how do you see to get a skill, do you try to, let's say, bring in a tool, or do you try to bring in people with that skill set? How is that? Is there any dynamic change with respect to that?
You need to have a AI and human balance, I would say, or let's say
Right.
whatever that tool set would be, right? For example, um, the point that I always spoke about this clearly, that AI definitely gives you that speed and then scale, but
Yes.
human, if you bring in human aspect, it will bring in that empathy, that nuances, the cultural resonance will come from there. You cannot
Absolutely.
replace that with AI,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it will always be a balance. And secondly, I think to an extent, you need to have ethical implementation, where you need to have a data governance. You need to um, that originality that that the original output that is required. Now, with the kind of tools that is available, you can get anything, but you need someone who to be there to shape that up. So effectively, and I wrote this one article also, I've mentioned that whenever you are working with, you need to consider AI to be your part, you to be a co-worker,
Yes.
and you need to define a role for AI effectively, and you need to define a
Mm.
role for a human as well. Both of
Yes.
them need to have their own respective roles, and they need to work with each other efficiently to deliver better quality, better output.
Mm. Got it. Got it all. And have you? Is there any set of skill sets that you have started to look for in someone who is joining your team or in your organization after this AI era? Like, have you started something slightly, let's say, more impactful skill set in the latest scheme of things?
Talking about the clarity of purpose, uh, where we need to define clearly what their roles are, what they need to do. And why I'm saying this, because let's say, as you mentioned, the current workforce that we have is also effectively learning. So we basically giving them specific um, tasks to make sure that they also get themselves trained. So of course, with Havas, we have a thing called Havas University, where people can take certain courses around AI, get them. And then, of course, all these is also part of how they're getting evaluated for their performances. So apart from their core um, job they're going to deliver, this is again something extra. And then, of course,
Okay.
we also define within their KRA that, okay, you need to make sure and bring in and come up with suggestion to basically improve what you do and bring in that 20% more efficiency in your work by implementing the new uh, or adapting to new AI models or tools that can help you. So that gives them pretty clarity in terms of what they need to do, how they need to go forward, and of course at a larger organization level, what our role, what our vision, how we want to go ahead. Um, so, and while we do that, we also make sure that we bring in an agility in terms of um, changing that structure. We are not fixated on a particular structure. We are very agile in terms of moving according to how the changes are happening currently. Um, Talent nurturing becomes critical aspect where we focus on upskilling them constantly to not just only on AI specifically, but at the same time about the psychological safety, because most of the people have that kind of fear in mind about, oh, now this is coming in, how can I, what will happen to us? And so that is more critical. And because COE is, while it has been uh, set up in India, we have other locations as well. We are basically keeping to basis our global alignment. So what the vision that we have at globally, we are basically in alignment with that. While all the decision making is happening locally, we keep
Okay.
that constant alignment with the vision that the global team have for us.
The what's happening in that region, doing a trend analysis at a hyper local level, and a lot of other things as well, right? So, how much of this is going to be, maybe if not AI driven, how much of this is going to be data driven, and how much of this is going to be human intelligence, or let's say human driven?
Data data is absolutely critical in this scenario.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if from a let's understand it from a structure perspective. Currently, how, and the structure I don't think gonna change very
Okay.
drastically, right? So I'll talk about the structure, then I'll talk about the data in that. So you see so global brand, you will have a global structure. Okay, you have a global framework. Okay, now uh, global structure will ensure that you have a consistent brand voice.
Okay.
Okay, that is going to be there, and they will define how you're going to measure at a global level. Okay, then you move into the inner circle of local nuances or local strategies. It is the cultural codes, the language, um, the timing, and the channels that are being used. Why I'm saying these are critical, because let's say take an example, the things in Indonesia culturally totally different. Their language is, let's say, the language that they speak. When are they communicating? Uh, if there are any specific festival that they communicate during that period of time, and what kind of channel become more prominent during that period. For example, let's say in some market, TikTok is more prominent. Some market, WeChat is basically more prominent. Um, some gives more importance to Facebook over Instagram. Some prefer Snapchat. So I'm saying these are again comes from very local understanding. Now, to an extent, how AI is going to influence this, of course.
Satisfy designers' needs as well as the performance marketers' needs. Now, speaking with hundreds of designers and also the data people, which is like the performance marketers and so on, the thought process, the way how they see things, as well as uh, the kind of tools they need, the kind of interfaces they need, those are totally distinct at this point of time. But one thing is coming out really clear: the platforms, especially the platforms like Meta and Google, are increasingly taking the heavy load of taking up the objective of targeting, right? So ultimately, let's say in Instagram, to make Instagram a successful platform, to make it, let's say, really usable for the end users of Instagram, content has to be highly relevant for them, be it ad content or be it, let's say, the regular content they consume, the organic content. It has to be highly relevant, and that has become the core KPI of Instagram as a platform itself. So now when that has happened, showing an irrelevant ad is something that even Meta would not do, right? Even in the form of an advertisement.
True.
So now targeting becoming their responsibility or the platform's responsibility. I think tailoring the content for the right audience is going to be the marketeer's responsibility, or the brand or the agency's responsibility, right? That way, measuring the creatives, as well as sort of, let's say, constructing a creative is needed, as opposed to only looking at it from the art or from the creativity standpoint. I think it's going to be a really good blend of which already is. It's not a new thing, but I think people who are able to, also the designers who are also able to measure the creative, as well as the performance marketeers who also can probably look the creatives from the end user standpoint. I think that particular persona, either of course someone might call themselves a designer but also can read data. Someone might call themselves a analyst or a performance marketer, but they can also have a really good eye for customer empathy, as well as the can understand the customer better and so on. I think that's the kind of archetypes I feel is going to be really crucial for the next few years or so around. I think that's my thoughts there.
True, true. No,
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think, but again, if you look at, like you take an example of Meta. Now, assuming the Meta Advantage Plus has been talked about in terms of how wonderfully it has been optimizing the cost reduction efficiency. Um, but you're taking away from the control that the marketer always had with them in terms of how they want to shape it up, who they want to talk to. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, and I mentioned I always talk to, whenever I talk to teams, and I always meant, and one of the in my article as well, I specifically told about it always works until it isn't, right?
Yes.
So you may never know that stop performing, and then you don't have anything to check for. And who do you then blame? The creative.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's that. So good that it is performing. We just have to basically go by uh, the data that Meta or these platforms, again, to wall gardens, somewhere the trust need to be there for you to, okay, it will perform.
Yeah.
But again,
True.
it's again future talks where whenever that happens, of course, when people start seeing decline, new discussion will be there about how what's next and how to do it, what to do next.
True. No, I think that's really important. I think we also keep emphasizing on the brands having a really good, let's say, creative intelligence, right? Like them knowing what's working out and probably also inferring why it's working out, and
Correct.
blend it with the channels that they use, and blend it with the algorithms responses and so on and so forth. I
But
think that's going to be
it's still well within control of the marketers, right?
exactly.
Um, Now, one is, of course, one thing that is being controlled by human completely. Now, when it comes to automation with respect to the Max, AI Max, or let's say Advantages Plus, right? You're completely growing by. You're giving everything to an AI to do.
Yeah, yeah. True,
So,
true.
see, you can see within this itself, you can see that differentiation. So, one is which is controlled, human monitored, and one is completely automated. There, I see there is a challenge effectively. A sub level of human intervention is does require to also to see how you can, because then if when you lose the complete control and sight of what exactly happened, how and how you can better it, then you ultimately you know you don't have anything with you, and you lose
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And then
Correct,
and
correct.
eventually only the creative intelligence and creative won't save anything.
Mm,
So both
mm.
need to work together, and human interventions
Yes.
does require when it comes to even targeting. Now, when you take that control, you will feel as if to the point that, oh, it's happening and it's performing well. No, at the moment it stops, you don't know exactly what to do, and you start blaming creative for everything going wrong, which should not
Mm.
be the case.
True,
And
true.
eventually, this debate will come in. It it's a matter of another years to go when the data isn't that sufficient for to take to personalize personalize your communication to end consumer. You will get into a debate of whether it is the creative or the data targeting
Mm.
that failed.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think completely spot on that,
Yeah.
Rahul. So
So
you have worked with, yeah, please go on. Yeah.
no, so I no, no, I was saying that the larger thought about when we talk about balancing the automation, sorry, balancing the AI with human creativity. The first step that anybody who's want to get into or start getting into the testing with the AI model in general, what they need to focus upon is basically automate what is the most repetitive thing, right? You get that out, get that out, uh, uh, get into the automation then, and
Mm.
you still start focusing upon the aspect which are more differentiating with human interventions.
Mm. Got it. Makes sense, Rahul. Uh, Okay, I think one more perspective that I wanted to get from you. I think you have worked in augmented reality based targeting, or like augmented reality based marketing and so on as well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's something that is evolving pretty drastically as well. Any, I'll probably also understand from you. One is, how is that shaping up as a channel, as well as any channels that you are probably, let's say, betting on, any new channel that you feel will probably pick up really big time, and you feel you find it interesting.
I honestly, I think after leaving Flipper, I've actually not dwelled too deep into augmented reality extensively,
Okay.
but
Mm.
for me, I think I actually found it to be very, very interesting. And I've been
Mm.
seeing these new contents about how these new
Yes.
products, you stick it here and then it will uh, read it out to you what you're seeing and
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
basically experiencing. For me, I think it's still called, it's very gimmicky in general, and I don't think
Okay.
that these products are actually work pretty well at this point of time. But again, I'm coming from a very my knowledge in that domain actually not been too extensive because I've only seen few of the content and commenting on it basis the few examples that I've seen may not be right at this point of time, to be very honest.
Okay. Got it, Rahul. Yeah, I think this has been
But
a
as a
really great.
medium in general,
Uh,
is very
yes.
whenever even in the past when we were working on it, I think we know or we knew that it has a great potential to explore. And of course, if you we take that we add it to potential in terms of engaging with consumer and making it more interactive in nature, it it actually can benefit brand multifolds. Now, um, you are seeing, let's say, a product advertisement, let's say of a jewelry, that you click onto it, instead of it taking to, let's say, a landing page where you can explore products, you have a interface that comes after the advertisement, which helps you try on that product directly and
Yeah.
then take a more informed decision after that
Okay.
to then go and visit a store or go and understand about the pricing and all that stuff. You then influencing the intent at large, and the moment you influence the intent of the consumer, it helps you then deliver the sale or ultimate end objective that you have more efficient, right? And I think the AI, the augmented reality is exactly going to focus on those aspects.
Okay.
It's time to nudge constantly the intent aspect. And I said that intent is the new black. You need to focusing upon how you capitalize on the intent, and then um, uh, uh, and everything becomes then for a market, of course, much easier, because when you get consumer to consider your product, and it's done, your job is done.
Mm. Got it. So, what did you mention? Intent is the new
Black.
black. Can you probably explain that a little?
I'd say so. The thought was initially, whenever we did the marketing to consumer in before COVID period, I think we largely focus upon um, uh, set cohort based advertisement. We're still, you know, uh, uh, spreading the wider net and try to get consumers to consider and fall into that entire funnel of yours. Then again, before the and now of course the cookie deprecation is still again being discussed a lot. I think the story lot is still awaited, but I'm saying before that, it cookie gave you a lot of data in terms of consumer intent and behavior at large, and we wanted to make sure that once you once you had that data, then you moved from probabilistic probabilistic advertisement to
Mm.
more deterministic approach
Mm.
of your advertising, and that deterministic approach makes you um, uh, pinpoint that exact user who has intent
Mm.
of buying a product,
Mm.
and then making a sale to him. So that's where
Mm.
the entire theory goes about how the intent plays a role in terms of all this entire thing, and how data and targeting comes together to basically do this. And that is where I think you see, while this was the case, I think then the entire cookie deprecation stuff came into play. Um, Meta and Google has changed their entire approach of targeting. Now you do
Yes.
not have too much of PII to play with, and you need focusing towards more again cohort advertisement. But now here, with the more AI-led approach of targeting,
Mm,
you're giving
mm,
full control to machines over you deciding what you need to do, or probably not deciding, but at least have an intervention in terms of seeing how you can shape this up. So we've reached to that level of being more deterministic to being now again coming back to having more probabilistic and deterministic blended approach.
mm. Got it. Got it, Rahul. That's interesting. I think, yeah, this was great, Rahul. We had a great discussion.
Wonderful.
Thanks a lot, Rahul, again for your time, and have a nice day. And
Great.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity.